It was a quiet Thursday morning at the White House when a plain, crayon-covered envelope arrived, addressed in a child's handwriting to President Trump from Lily Waters. A Secret Service agent passed it along with a curious glance, unsure if it would even be opened, but something about it felt different. President Trump had just finished a briefing when his aide Janine gently placed the letter on his desk and said, "Sir, this might be something you want to see." He raised an eyebrow, opened the envelope, and found a sheet of lined notebook paper covered in hearts and stars. The handwriting was uneven, the spelling imperfect, but the message was sincere. "Dear President Trump, my name is Lily. I am 7 years old. My daddy is a sailor and he is on a ship. I miss him so much. Mommy says you are the boss. Can you please bring him home for my birthday? It's next Saturday. I just want one hug from my daddy. Love, Lily Waters." Trump read the letter several times, then leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling, silent for the first time in days. Janine stood by quietly, not daring to speak. Finally, Trump whispered, "Find out everything about this girl." At that very moment, in a modest home in Norfolk, Virginia, 30-year-old Navy wife Emily Waters was folding laundry when Lily came running in, eyes wide with hope. "Mommy, did the president get my letter?" Emily froze. She hadn't expected Lily to actually mail the letter. She thought it was just a pretend activity, a way for her daughter to express her feelings. They had drawn it together on a stormy evening when Lily missed her father the most. "Sweetheart," Emily said gently, "sometimes important people get a lot of letters. But it was beautiful, and I'm proud of you." Lily looked down and whispered, "I just want Daddy here for my birthday." Emily knelt beside her and hugged her tight. "I know, baby. So do I." Unbeknownst to them, the White House was already in motion. A background check had confirmed that Petty Officer Daniel Waters had been deployed for 6 months aboard the USS Montgomery. President Trump's team had begun quietly coordinating with the Department of Defense. There was no plan for press, no big announcement, just something in that letter that moved the president deeply. Back in Norfolk, Emily sat on the couch beside a folded American flag pillow, completely unaware that her daughter's words were about to change everything. Meanwhile, 34-year-old Petty Officer Daniel Waters, a Navy veteran of over a decade, continued his daily duties at sea. He loved his country, but he loved his girls even more. Life aboard the USS Montgomery was a blur of routine and responsibility, but late at night, Lily's last video message echoed in his mind. "Daddy, I miss you. I wish you could come to my birthday." He swallowed hard. He had long accepted the sacrifices, missed birthdays, anniversaries, even Christmases. It was the life of a sailor. But this time, it hit differently. Lily was growing fast, and he was missing it. He had already missed her first bike ride, her first school play, and now it looked like he'd miss her 8th birthday too. In his bunk aboard the USS Montgomery, Daniel kept Lily's drawing tucked away, a picture of a family holding hands under a bright yellow sun. Beneath it were 3 simple words, "Come home soon." That night, he was unexpectedly called to the bridge. "Waters," the captain said with a curious smile, "you've caught the attention of someone high up." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Sir?" The captain nodded. "You're being granted a 3-day shore leave, effective immediately. Presidential request." Daniel blinked in disbelief. "Come again?" "The commander-in-chief himself," the captain said. Daniel's world shifted as emotions surged. His daughter had written the president a letter, and it had worked. Meanwhile, back in Norfolk, Lily was busy making hand-drawn decorations. She insisted on an ocean-themed birthday party to match her daddy's job. Emily smiled through the worry. Finances were tight, and she didn't want to get Lily's hopes too high. Still, she planned a small backyard celebration with balloons, cupcakes, and close friends. Then came the call. "Ma'am," the voice said, "this is a White House liaison. Please do not share this with the press or anyone outside your household. But Petty Officer Waters will arrive the morning of Lily's birthday. Emily nearly dropped the phone. What? He'll be escorted directly to your home, the voice continued. President Trump wanted this to be a surprise. We'll contact you tomorrow with the logistics. Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks as she looked at Lily giggling on the floor, playing with seashell stickers. She whispered, "You have no idea what's coming." President Trump stood quietly in the Oval Office, holding Lily's letter. One more time. He didn't usually handle things like this personally, but something about her innocence, her honest, unfiltered plea, touched a part of him that politics never could. He called his team together. "I want this kept quiet," he said firmly. "No cameras, no speeches, no reporters. This isn't for the news, it's for that little girl." They nodded in agreement. "This isn't about me," Trump added. "It's about giving a child her father, even if just for one day." Later, he sat down and handwrote a note, while his chief of staff looked on, surprised. To Lily, "Thank you for your beautiful letter. I think your dad is a hero, and so are you. You reminded me what matters most. Love, President Donald J. Trump." He smiled softly and instructed it to be delivered after the party. In the early hours of Saturday morning, a quiet motorcade rolled into the Norfolk Naval Base. A Navy van waited to escort Petty Officer Daniel Waters on the final stretch home. Sitting in the back seat, in his freshly pressed uniform, Daniel held a small wrapped box locket with a picture of him and Lily taken just before his last deployment. "I can't believe this is real," he whispered. The driver glanced back with a smile. "Orders straight from the top, sir. This one's for your girl." Meanwhile, Emily was a whirlwind of emotion, frosting cupcakes, hanging decorations, and doing her best to keep calm around Lily. "Mommy, do you think Daddy would have come if he could?" Lily asked as she blew up a balloon. Emily smiled gently. "Sweetheart, your daddy would move mountains if he could." Lily nodded. "Then maybe he will." Emily paused, looking toward the front door, half expecting a miracle. The moment felt like it might burst open with emotion, and at precisely 11:02 a.m., a knock came. Emily froze mid-step, her heart pounding. She quickly wiped her hands on her apron and turned to Lily. "Can you get that, honey?" she said, trying to sound calm. Lily skipped to the door, unaware of what was waiting. When she opened it, she gasped. There, standing tall in his dress blues, was Daniel, her daddy. For a split second, Lily could only stare, eyes wide in disbelief. Then, with a joyful squeal, she launched herself into his arms. "Daddy!" she cried. Emily stood behind them, hand covering her mouth, tears streaming freely. Daniel clutched Lily tightly, lifting her off the ground. "I told you I'd come home when I could," he whispered. Lily nodded against his chest. "I knew the president would help. I just knew it." Daniel looked up at Emily, his eyes glistening. "How?" he asked softly. Emily just smiled. "You have a powerful little girl." The backyard came alive with laughter, music, and the scent of vanilla frosting. Neighbors and friends, many still thinking Daniel was deployed, stood stunned as he greeted them in uniform. When asked, Emily simply said with a wink, "Just a little birthday miracle." Daniel never strayed far from Lily, helping her cut the cake and dance to her favorite song. She eagerly showed him every crayon drawing she'd made while he was away. When she unwrapped his gift, a small silver locket, she gasped, "It's us." He gently fastened it around her neck. "So you'll always have me close," he said. Later, while stepping inside for a moment, Emily noticed a plain envelope on the kitchen table. She opened it carefully. It was a handwritten letter from President Trump. Her hands trembled as she read, "Thank you for letting me borrow your hero today. He's right where he belongs, with his greatest mission being a father." Emily placed the letter in a frame, her heart full. What the Waters family didn't know was that one neighbor, deeply moved by the reunion, had snapped a photo of Daniel embracing Lily in his uniform. She quietly posted it to Facebook with a simple caption, "A sailor comes home for his daughter's birthday." Thanks to Lily's heartfelt letter to the president, a single photo, unplanned, raw, and full of emotion, began spreading across social media. The neighbor hadn't tagged anyone or expected much, but by morning, the image had been shared thousands of times. It captured something America deeply longed for: unity, love, and sacrifice. Within 48 hours, the story had gone viral. Headlines: read, "Little girl's letter to Trump brings her sailor dad home." Even news outlets typically critical of Trump acknowledged the power of the moment. "This wasn't political," one host said on air. "This was human." The image made its way around the globe. In Italy, it was shared under the title "El Miracolo della Bambina e del Marinaio," the miracle of the girl and the sailor. In Japan, it became a daughter's wish that moved a nation. Letters poured into the water's mailbox, many simply addressed to Lily, the girl who wrote to the president. But not all the responses were kind. Some criticized the gesture. "He's just one sailor. What about the others?" Others accused it of being a political stunt. The White House declined to issue an official statement. Instead, a spokesperson offered only this: "The president read a little girl's letter and acted not for cameras, but because it was right." Emily watched the online comments roll in, some filled with love, others with criticism, and turned to Daniel. "Should we have stayed quiet?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Our daughter reminded the world what really matters. Let them talk." Then another letter arrived, this time from CBS Sunday Morning. They wanted to do a feature interview with the family. Emily hesitated, but Lily beamed. "Can I show them my locket?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Only on one condition: if you tell the story in your own words." On the day of the interview, Lily sat proudly in a blue dress, her silver locket shining in the light. She looked into the camera and said softly, "I just missed my daddy. I missed my daddy. So I asked the biggest boss I knew for help." That one clip from Lily's interview gathered over 10 million views. Back at the White House, President Trump watched the segment alone. He saw Lily's raw honesty, Daniel's tearful gratitude, and Emily's quiet strength. Turning to his aide Janine, he said softly, "I've had a lot of power in my life. But that girl, she reminded me what real power looks like. The power of love." Janine nodded, taken aback by the vulnerability in his voice. Trump walked to the window and added, "One letter," and it made the whole world pause. At Lily's school, she had become a mini celebrity. Classmates asked about her dad, her locket, and whether she really received a letter from the president. Her teacher invited her to speak during Hero Week. Standing confidently in front of her classmates, Lily said, "My daddy is my hero, and President Trump helped bring him home." Then, holding up her original letter, she added, "This changed everything." The class clapped. One boy raised his hand and asked, "Can I write a letter too? My mom is in the army." Lily smiled and said, "Always try." Inspired by her story, schools across the country launched Lily's Letter Project, encouraging kids to write heartfelt messages to deployed parents, teachers, and even veterans in nursing homes. A school in Texas summed it up. She reminded U.S. that writing from the heart matters. Over the following weeks, the White House received more than 10,000 letters from children, some silly, some deeply moving. Each night, Trump read a few before bed. One simply read, "Dear President, thank you for making daddies come home." He kept that one tucked in his desk drawer. 6 months later, Trump invited the Waters family to a private ceremony. No cameras, no press, just a quiet thank you. He knelt down to Lily's level and handed her a small medal engraved with her name, the President's Child of Honor Award, created just for her. "You taught us," he said, "that a child's voice really does matter." As President Trump, Gently handed Lily the medal. She looked up and whispered, "Did I do good?" He smiled warmly. "Sweetheart, you changed the world." In the months that followed, Emily began speaking at military family events, advocating for better emotional support during deployments. She always started with Lily's story. Sometimes, she'd say, all it takes is one letter, one child to remind us what we're fighting for. Inspired by the message, donations poured in to help reunite military families during emergencies and special moments. From that wave of kindness, the Lily Waters Foundation was born. A year later, Daniel was deployed again. Now 8,